Aloha, everyone, and happy almost full moon lunar eclipse. This is going to be a full blood moon lunar eclipse, which means that we're going to see a lot of the action, actually seeing the moon turn fully red, which is always such a powerful activation. And so join me tonight. We're going to dive into what the energy of this eclipse is bringing. Why on earth is it so intense? And how can we ride the waves of the energy that this is creating? So happy you're here. Lotus Dawn with Blossom with the Stars. How are all of you doing out there? How are you doing with these pre-eclipse energies? They are always the most intense as we ride into them. So if you have been noticing a lot of intensity, just know that you're not alone. We also had one of the major planets, Venus, the planet of love, the billionaire planet, went retrograde on March 1st, which means that things related to love, things related to relationships, things related to our finances, instead of continuing to move forwards at a rapid rate, when a planet goes retrograde, it means that we are being asked by the universe to slow down, to reevaluate, to reassess, to reintegrate, to renew, review, and look back. In some cases with Venus, Venus actually moves in 8-year cycles. And so the advice with Venus retrograde is if you want more information about what is being brought up for you with this Venus retrograde, which will end on April 12th, you can actually look backwards 8 years ago, 2017, and find out, what was happening in my life? Now, if there wasn't something 8 years back, you can go 16 years back or 24 years back, and there should be some type of situation, person, or event that may have happened that Venus retrograde is asking. It's giving you an opportunity to review it, to heal it, to clear it. And the first way that we can fully heal things is that we must truly feel it. And so nothing asks us more to do that than when it is our hearts. And Venus represents our hearts. So without further ado, let's get into the eclipses. Now we know that the planet of love is dealing with a lot of stuff from the past, and the people around us might be all going through deeper than average emotional transformations. One thing that they say with Venus retrograde is that it can invite lovers from the past to show back up in our lives. It can also bring up the thought of someone that we used to date or have connection with from years ago. We might suddenly think about them. And really, it's an opportunity to release, to heal, and to clear these old energies and finally step forwards into what you do want. So, how does that relate to this eclipse that's happening on March 13th at 11:56 p.m. Pacific Standard Time? Is that the sun has just moved into the constellational sign of Pisces. And Venus, the planet of love, is also in Pisces. And so this upcoming full moon eclipse is going to have so many planets in Pisces. And that's one of the reasons why it's so intense. Why is that? Pisces is all about water. In fact, it is a water sign. And what is water? Water is sort of uncontrollable, right? It does what it wants. You can place barriers up, you can try to block it, you can try to shape it, you can try to place it, but water eventually will wind its way and curve back all the way to where it's headed, usually the ocean. And just like us, we all make our way back to the sea of divine oneness. This coming eclipse period has so many planets appearing in Pisces, not only the sun, but the planet Saturn, the planet Neptune, the destiny point, the collective destiny point of all of humanity, the Chiron wound, all in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, and Venus is retrograded, things from the past, and then Mercury is going to go retrograde 2 days after the lunar eclipse on March 15th. So much is being brought up for us related to the Piscean energy, which is water. Pisces relates to our intuition. It's hard to define Pisces truly. It's the last sign of the zodiacal wheel, and it marks completion, the return home. I often think of Pisces as the energy of what it was like for us when we were in the womb, and then what it's like for us as we return back to God, right? So as we begin our journey to come into this life, and then we begin our journey to go home to source. So Pisces energy really relates to those liminal spaces that musicians, artists, people get into when they're tapping into creativity. And so to have the sun in Pisces at this full moon is a very powerful energy of dreaminess, of intuition, of kind of enhanced psychic ability. So what that can mean is that we may feel this upcoming lunar eclipse more strongly than maybe we might feel a different aspect. So I'm going to bring up the actual sky right now, and we're going to take a look at where the planets are as we get ready to leap into this full moon lunar eclipse. And I'm always excited to hear from you guys what's going on for you when it comes to these eclipse energies. If you're noticing anything in your own life, please feel to share in the comments. It's always exciting for the collective, because what I've noticed as an astrologer is even though we're out here sitting in our separate houses, watching our separate news feeds, we're all one, we're all connected, and we're all feeling these huge planetary activations together. We're all sensing them, we're all noticing them, we're all feeling them. And because of this, it's very helpful to hear other people's stories. It's very helpful to know, oh, wow, other people are going through similar things that I am. And full moons are very powerful, right? Have you noticed that they tend to bring everything up to the surface? Well, eclipses are even more powerful. They're like full moons times 10. And the reason for this is that they activate something called the destiny point of the moon. And so the destiny point of the moon has a twin, which is the past life karmic point. Some people call this the north node and south node of the moon. And so every eclipse, the sun and moon activate one of those points. And so this coming full moon eclipse, the sun will be conjuncting or activating the destiny point, what we're all growing into, what we're all working on expanding into. And the moon, which is always opposite the sun at the full moon, will be conjunct the south node of the moon, our past, where we've come from, what we're good at, but what we're kind of growing away from. And so because the eclipses always activate the destiny points, they are sometimes called of fate or destiny. They're cosmic check-in points where we are literally invited to get clear on some aspect of our life. And it's very interesting to do astrological charts and see where these full moon eclipses or new moon eclipses are activating us personally. So I will be offering discounted eclipse readings if you're very curious to see where this new moon or full moon eclipse is activating your specific astrological chart, as that is truly the miracle and gift of astrology readings, as it gives us so much information about ourselves and what the energetics of these lunar activations are bringing in. So let's take a look at the actual sky. One of my favorite apps that I use to know what's happening in the sky at all times, because I follow the True the Star system, is something called Stellarium. So I'm going to share Stellarium with you. You can just go to stellarium.org online. And so here we go. This shows us a picture of the actual sky. And so we see now that the moon is in Leo. And by the time we get to the 13th, she will have traveled almost all the way through Leo and have arrived in Virgo. So the full moon eclipse will be in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is the sign of health. It's the sign of healing. It's the sign of service to humanity. It can relate to hospitals, to medicine, to doctors, to nurses, to yoga teachers, or any type of practice or person who's involved in giving service to others, helping them with their health or with their healing. And it's so interesting that the moon at the eclipse time will be exactly conjunct the south node of the moon in Virgo. And I went back and I did some research. And the last time we had the moon at this similar degree of Virgo was in March of 2020, March 9th. And so having the south node with the moon at this point kind of makes me wonder or think that there may be in the collective a lot of collective letting go over the last 5 years, over what happened with the lockdowns and COVID and all of that stuff might be entering sort of a big release or clearing. It might be sort of coming up in the collective to be fully felt, to be fully received, and ideally let go. And one of the hints that I have about why this might be happening is that eclipses sort of function as bookends. And so just like when we think about a new moon, the completion of that new moon is at the full moon, which is 2 weeks later. But eclipses have a much longer incubation period. And so a new moon solar eclipse has a 6-month window that then will complete at the full moon lunar eclipse 6 months later. And so in order to really fully understand what this full moon, full blood moon lunar eclipse might be bringing up for you in your life, a suggestion I can give you is to tune into and think about who you were and where you were and what you were doing at the time of the last new moon solar eclipse, which was around October 1st. And this coming lunar eclipse is going to mark a completion around what you started 6 months ago. It could also represent a letting go. It could represent something leaving your life. It could represent something transforming in your life. And, sometimes we think that's a person or a place, or we have to let go of a piece of clothing or move to a new location. But sometimes our letting go can simply be letting go of an outmoded way of thinking, letting go of old thought patterns, letting go of a way that we view ourselves. And so eclipses, in some ways, full moon eclipses can sometimes feel a little bit like an ego death, because it feels like we're going to lose something of ourselves. But here's the truth. Eclipses will never take away anything that is eternal. Eclipses and full moon cycles will only release and let go of and assist you with releasing and let go of any components or particles of yourself that are not truly in alignment with your true whole essence and beingness. So very interesting. Now, what about the sun? The sun has just moved into the constellation of Pisces. And so there's a lot of activity in Pisces, and I'll show you the astrological chart for the full moon eclipse. But here is Pisces, the constellation of Pisces. And you can see Mercury is also there next to the fishtail, and Venus is also there. Venus, of course, went retrograde March 1st, which we're all sort of working through and dealing with past things related to the heart, related to love, healing heartache, healing heartbreak, healing things that we've loved. Another thing I've thought of with Venus retrograde is that it's in the sign of Pisces, which is the sign of dreams, and it's the planet of love. And so I've kind of felt and tuned into what does Venus in Pisces retrograde mean? And it felt like, where did we give up on our dream of what we love? Where did we give up on doing the thing we love? And then Venus can also represent the billionaire. And so where did we give up on our dream that we love and the idea that we could make lots of money doing it. And so, whatever that brings up for you, imagine, if you will, what it would be like to finally set those blocks and limitations down and to be open to the possibility that by the end of Venus retrograde, you may find, as Venus goes direct around April 12th, that you've been able to clear and step more into doing more of what you love and knowing that you can make a lot of money doing it. How cool is that? Now, getting back to the lunar eclipse energies, Sun will still be in Pisces, but it's also conjunct Saturn. And this is very interesting because Saturn is the sign of government and Sun is the sign of illumination. And they're all going to be conjunct the destiny point of humanity. So let's go ahead. We're going to stop share for a moment, and I'm going to get out the chart of the eclipse that is happening Thursday, March 13th at about 11:56 a.m. I'm sorry, p.m. And we can dive into what the energetics look like. And you're going to be able to see just how many signs are actually in Pisces. It's pretty phenomenal. And so I'm excited to share this with you. And if you know anything about astrology, perhaps you can look at your own chart and see where do you have a lot of Pisces. And now I follow the True the Star system, which means that these signs and planets are based on the actual sky. If you had a telescope and you went outside, this is what you would see. And so here we have it, you guys. Saturn is going to be 2 degrees away from the sun, conjunct the destiny point, conjunct Neptune. This is a full house of aspects. I mean, having just having the sun opposing the moon at the time of the full moon is quite a lot of charge. But as you can see here, the sun is going to be joined by quite a lot of friends. And so what does that mean? Well, Saturn, of course, is the sign of government. It's the sign of structure. It's the sign of discipline. In the sign of Pisces, it's a little bit counterintuitive because where Saturn represents structure and discipline and foundation building, Pisces is total flow. Pisces is the water. Pisces is intuition. It's our knowingness. It's our psychic ability. And so with Saturn here, it means that perhaps we're going to finally get serious about our dreams. It means that sun is going to shine on what does it really take to achieve the things that we fantasize about? What does it really take to build the life of our dreams? On another front, if we're to look at the collective, if we're to look at our government, Saturn represents discipline. And so sun shining on the government means that there's probably going to be a lot of light and illumination on the government at the time of this eclipse. A lot of information is going to come to light, and that we have the destiny point, which represents what we're growing into as a collective. And so as a society with destiny point in Pisces, we're being asked to grow into our intuition. We're being asked to follow our dreams. We're being guided to connect to the truth of our soul versus the truth of having to work a 9-to-5 job every single day and give up our dreams, right? And so one of the big activations of this full moon eclipse is that we have the past life point, destiny point, where we were, who we were, our past, our karma in Virgo, opposite the destiny point, where we're going, our future. And so who we were, where we're going, where we were at as a culture, South Node, Virgo is working hard, 9-to-5, giving, always working, always giving. It can relate to an over-reliance on doctors, on medicine, on pharmaceutical drugs. And so instead, with the destiny point being in Pisces, it says that as a collective, as a culture, as a society, we are going to be growing towards building a structure and a foundation that is illuminated and built on the spirit, on energy, on intuition, on our awareness of really what's happening on this earth. And so there could be some tension, as it is a full moon, with the moon opposing the sun, where moon can represent our conditioning. It can represent what we learned from our family, from our upbringing. And so Moon in Virgo means we're more comfortable with how things were. We're more comfortable with the status quo. We're more comfortable with the lessons and teachings we were given about when you're sick, you go see the doctor. When you're sick, you take medicine. In order to be successful, you have to work hard. You have to achieve a great amount of service to others. You have to give to the point of overgiving. And so North Node in Pisces, Sun in Pisces says no to that. Says it's time to give based on a full cup. It's time to work from what we dream to do, right? It's time to put our dreams into action. It's time to work the dream versus work someone else's dream, serve someone else. It's time to step into what is our dream. What do we desire? What do we want to create, with Saturn being the structure, the discipline, the gung-ho spirit to be able to continue onwards despite any and all resistance. And then destiny point. It's our destiny to shine as spiritually in tune, alive, awake, vibrant, powerful, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, multidimensional beings with spiritual gifts on this earth, and to actually take those spiritual gifts, Saturn, and put them into practice. However, all of this new momentum towards our spiritual connection, towards stepping into our dreams, is being opposed by the status quo and who we were, with the South Node in Virgo and the moon conjunct it in Virgo. And so there's a tension. There's a tension between the old and a tension towards what we're being drawn to grow into. And so you might feel yourself kind of being vacillating or moving back and forth between what your soul desires and what your common sense or your practical wisdom or your conditioning is guiding you towards. And so, given the awareness of the astrology chart, which is always so accurate, see if you can find a middle ground. See if you can find a way to both work and give service and help others and follow your dreams. See if you can use the discipline of Saturn to put your spiritual goals, your soulful goals into practice. Allow the idea that our destiny is to truly grow towards our soul and spirit to guide us, right? Whew, it's powerful. At the same time, we have the planet Pluto, which is the great transformer in Capricorn, which is the sign of business structure. It's the sign of our government. And it's in the same sign that it was at the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And so we are back where we started at the beginning of this country. And Pluto represents big change, big transformation. It represents the underworld. It represents caves and things that are underground, things that are buried, things that are secret, things that are hidden. And Mars is moving closer and closer to an opposition to Pluto, getting very close here at the full moon, which means that our leadership, the leadership within us, the leadership of this country, this leadership of other countries, a lot is coming out about them. Pluto is the great revealer. It's the great revealer of governments. It's the great revealer of things that are buried and kept secret in governmental state bodies, in businesses, in CEOs, in our own lives. Where are we? Do we have hidden things in our structure? These things are going to be brought to the light so that we can move forward, so that we can be more clear, right? And so Pluto is going to be in Capricorn for 13 years. Pluto is the transformer. Capricorn is structure. Our very structure, our societal structure, the structure of our government, the structure of our leaders, the structure of those in power, the structure of business and CEOs is going to transform. Truth, big truth, deep truth is going to come out for so many layers and levels of our government, for our people. And so this is a time where, especially with Sun in Pisces, North Node in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, if you want to know how do we ride these waves of change with Pluto in Capricorn for 13 years, with the government completely transforming from the ground up, with truth being revealed on deeper and deeper levels continually, then Saturn in Pisces says the only true constant, the only structure we can truly depend upon is our own spiritual connection to Source. It is our daily habits of tuning in to our own hopes, wishes, and dreams. It is focusing on what our vision for our future is versus depending on the government or outside forces to lead us or guide us in the same way we used to. Instead, we're being called to structure our own vision and our own dreams so that we can build a future based on our own connection to what is true, eternal, and everlasting, which is the soul, which is the spirit. And so I think I could predict now that with Saturn going into Pisces, especially joining up with the sun and the destiny point and Neptune at the full moon eclipse, this is going to be an incredibly transformational year for all of us and an incredibly potentially lucrative year for all the people who work with things like energy healing, like psychic channeling, like yoga teaching, shamanic practices, meditation, breath work, spiritual teachings. This is a year when so much is going to be changing externally that the truest solace that people are going to find is going to be from within. And so it becomes almost essential at this time to prioritize our self-care, to prioritize going within, to prioritize tuning into our own dreams, our own visions, our own goals for what we want to create on this earth, and allow the intensity of the world around us and the transformation of all these structures. That's what's happening. To do their transformational process, to get down deep into the buried undergrowth and allow it to be clean and clear so that we can begin to build a new society built on a clear foundation. So the next 13, 14 years with Pluto retrograde sort of underlying everything means that we have a huge opportunity to transform all the structures that we have been used to following. So with that, as we think about this full moon eclipse, I want to invite you to think about what your dreams are. And then that's the sun in Pisces. The moon is in Virgo, sun in Pisces with the destiny point in Pisces where we're growing towards. Moon is in Virgo with the south node of the moon, our past. And so the question becomes, how do we balance our spiritual self, our spiritual practices, our desire to be connected to our soul, our desire to fulfill our dreams with the material side, Virgo, which is our daily routines, eating, sleeping, exercise, service, work, healthcare, healing. How do we create a balanced awareness of both? And sometimes our lives aren't balanced, but how can we allow ourselves to integrate both the practical, analytical, service, work-oriented Virgo moon side with the spiritual, intuitive, expressive side that's wanting to shine, that's wanting to express? And for many of us with Saturn and Pisces, this is going to be a year where a lot of intuitive, gifted, psychically aware people are going to awaken more. And they're going to start imagining and creating more and more businesses. And so if you're someone on this path, you may be called this year, in the next 3 years with Saturn and Pisces, towards finally putting down the structure of your business, of your creative idea, your vision, or your dream, and actually bringing it into reality. And so the biggest advice I can give you with this full moon lunar eclipse, and please feel free to share any cognitions or awarenesses that you've had while listening to this broadcast today about the energetics of this upcoming full lunar eclipse full moon because it's big. And it's big individually and it's big collectively. And so if you're feeling the building energy, you're not alone. My biggest advice, allow what's being brought up to the surface to be brought up, to be magnetized up to the surface in us and in everyone around us, and then allow it to get washed and cleansed and purified by the moon. Just allow yourself to take whatever's coming up in the next few days and take it and tune into it, and then just give it on up to the moon. Send it on up. It becomes extra magnetic at the time of the full moon. So just give it on up to her and let it transmute, let it transform, and let yourself be fully cleared to begin to open up to receive more light, more energy, as we then head into the next new moon eclipse cycle beginning March 29th. Just a reminder, Mercury is also going retrograde on March 15th. And so a big component of this lunar eclipse is the fact that things from the past, collectively, individually, in our government, in the media, will be coming up to the surface to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized. And it's always weird when things that haven't been known suddenly come to the surface. And so what I've noticed with that process is that typically before the information comes up and surfaces, there's a feeling of deep intensity in us and in those around us as we all intuitively, psychically sense that these things are about to rise up to the surface. So allow the information, the things that have been hidden, the things that have been unaware, to become aware, to rise up to the surface, to come up and out, to be cleansed and purified out of us, out of each other, out of this earth, out of this planet, and know that the spiritual awareness, the psychic, intuitive power of each of us is growing deeper and deeper and more powerfully with each day as we step into our destiny of being fully awake, fully aware, fully present, the divine gift and blessing that each of us is here to be on this earth. So I send you all so much love. I appreciate you sitting and tuning in with me tonight. And I wish you all just immense abundance, love, joy, blessings as we have the power to confront and to let go. We make room for more to come in. Sending you all biggest love. Aloha.